pay you any money, and the people who you placed the other dog with did not finish paying you.
Correct.
Well, they're not responsible for that person. They're not responsible for that person unless you gave them the dog in order to collect the money. Okay. Or did you drop the puppy off?
I dropped the puppy off at their house.
Then that's your problem. Okay. So then what we're dealing is the $500 that you claim they owe you for the dog.
Oh, plus potential loss of income.
Oh, no, yeah. That'd be ridiculous. Okay, $500. Let me hear your excuse.
I think that the dog has been abused, and I have video proving.
And?
The mail won't ever come around.
Just a second. And?
The male does not like males. What he'll do is he will cower at the sight of any male. He's very aggressive when he goes to take food from you.
He was 10 and a half weeks old.
We've had him for 8 months now, and we still can't touch him.
But you got him, and he was 9 and a half weeks old.
And he's still the same.
You got him when he was 9 and a half weeks old. So that's not a reason not to pay for him. You still have him.
He needs proper care, and we don't feel like we should pay anything.
No.
Not with what we have to deal with the dog emotionally and everything else.
Well, unfortunately, the law does not agree with you. You agreed to pay him $500 for a dog. You have the dog, and you have to pay him the $500 for the dog. That's it. It's an easy case. That was your contract. You didn't make a contract with him for a dog that had a nice disposition. Just pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf. Buy a golden doodle.
Good.
Buy a Shih Tzu. You want a big dog? What's another big dog?
Golden Retriever.
Buy a Golden Retriever. But if you people are odd enough to think that wolf dogs make good pets, not knowing, because I did a little investigation into wolf dogs, are wolf dogs good pets? Because I get my cases early, and I say, why would any normal person want to own, with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs, why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf? Why would you do that? If your animal is aggressive, go look at its history. Because sometimes they'll grow up to be friendly, nice dogs, like the first one you had.
The first one I have is very well with our kids.
You know, this one, I'm going back to my wolf roots. Well, so it's judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
We more or less rescued this dog.
The dog had no issues before.
He cowers down to any side of a male.
That's just a totally false statement.
It's to the point where he's got to get a trainer.
I hope that it is taken care of, and if they don't want the animal, I'd be glad to take it back and care for it.
We're going to work with him. Yeah, we're not going to let him go.
Just another example of people who maybe not, looked into the history of a dog, a wolf dog. Mm-hmm. And if you read about it...
I did a little before the case.
Yeah. And it said that a wolf dog is a mix between a wild dog and a domesticated dog. And they list the names of the kinds of dogs that they have been bred with over the course of the years. But in that kind of situation, you don't know how much wolf you're getting.
It's a risk.
You could be getting 8% wolf. You could be getting 50% wolf. You really don't know. I think that there are some jurisdictions where they don't allow them to be sold as domesticated pets.
I think there are a few out there. I just think it's a gamble, and you have to be willing to assume the risk.
I think that we have totally covered wolf dogs.
I think we have.
Suing his former friend, Nadine Drury, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, everybody.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Captain?
Case number 2015, Moss versus Drury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moss, prior to leasing an apartment with the defendant, had you known each other?
Sort of.
Tell me a sort of.
So we met one time about a year prior. We have mutual friends, one of which had asked me to get ordained to marry her and her husband. So I flew in town to do that, and Nadine was there at their house when I flew in. We saw each other for a few minutes, and that's actually the only time we've ever met in person.
And there came a time when you were looking for an apartment where?
I was looking for an apartment in the Salt Lake area.
And where had you been living?
In Seattle.
And where were you living, Miss Drury?
In Salt Lake City.
You were looking to move?
Yes.
So other than that one-time meeting when you were officiating at a mutual friend's wedding, you hadn't met before, but somebody suggested that you were looking for an apartment, you were looking for a new apartment, and perhaps you could rent an apartment together.
Yes, that's
Fair statement?
in fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in what month and year did that happen?
It would have been in October of 2020 that this arrangement sort of came to be like, hey, maybe you should see if Nadine...
Okay, but you did, in fact, sign a lease together. Who found the apartment?
Nadine did.
You did. Prior to signing the lease, Mr. Moss, had you seen the apartment?
No.
No is the answer. Did you ever see the apartment, other than videos or photographs of it?
No, I never saw
Prior
the
to
apartment.
signing the lease?
Correct.
Also correct.
Correct.
On what date was the lease signed?
On the 7th of November of 2020.
The rent on the apartment was how much?
It was $585 a month each.
$1,170, Your Honor.
So $585 per month each. You both signed it on the same day. Did you move in?
I did.
On what date?
November 8th.
And you were still in Seattle.
Correct.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
Okay, and that is also correct.
Correct.
Because for whatever reason you decided to stay in Seattle.
Correct.
Is that work-related or socially?
Social.
And then you contacted her and told her that you weren't intending to move in,
Correct.
but that you would continue to pay your half of the rent. Is that also correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you were making a direct deposit to the account to pay the rent,
Yeah, it was an automatic payment from my account to the rental.
to the rental office.
Yes, to the rental office.
Then you came to find that Miss Drury had stopped paying her portion of the rent. When did you stop making payments on your portion of the rent?
In January.
So you paid either full or partial for November because you moved in on the 8th, and you paid December's rent.
Correct.
And you stopped paying rent in January. Why?
I lost my job in December of 2020.
So I'm going to outline now what this case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Moss continued paying his half of the rent until you found a roommate.
Correct.
And you found a roommate when?
I believe I found him in February, and he moved in the month of March and started paying his half of the rent.
So you didn't pay rent January or February,
Correct.
2 months.
Correct.
And you had no work.
Correct.
When you found out that the rent wasn't being paid, according to you, in order to not impact your credit, you spoke to her. She said, I don't have a job. You said, I can help you out. I'll send you money. Mm-hmm. Is that generally what happened? Then I'll get into
that's generally what happened, but there is a little more detail to it.
I'm going to let you get to the details.
All right.
And you want that money back. The money that you advanced her in her time of need, which was how much in total?
The total is $3,360. She did at some point pay me $300 back, so the amount I am seeking is $3,060.
Okay. Are those figures accurate?
Yes.
And he gave you that money, not because you were good friends, because you were a relative. He had met you one time.
Right.
And he had, in fact, said to you, I will continue to pay my rent, even though I know you from hole in the wall. I will continue because I signed this lease until you find someone to get me off the lease.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your defense, it seems to me, to this action is that he was really trying to scam the government by depleting his bank account so he could collect food stamps or whatever.
No.
And as a result of that, because he wasn't being honest with the government, you shouldn't have to pay him back. I just want to know if that's what I'm reading correctly.
There was never an agreement
No.
to pay back.
That's a different story. I'm going to read this over because, you know, I'm getting elderly, and I may not have recalled exactly what you said in your answer. It doesn't say that here. It says several months later, it's after you found a new roommate, Emmett randomly reached out to me saying that I owed him money and demanded that I take out a personal loan to pay it. I refused. Emmett has some nerve. Not only did he break the lease, well, what difference does that make to you? He still was paying his half of the rent. So now you had a whole apartment by yourself and he was paying the rent, right? So why does he have some nerve? But he took advantage of me and used me to scam the system. So that's what I understand your defense is.
It is. I have video evidence, Your Honor.
Video of what?
Of Emmett.
Of Emmett what?
Of Emmett explaining why he was trying to get on assistance and how he was like, it's fine for you to pay rent with this money because I'm trying to empty my bank account so that I can get on food stamps.
It is true.
Okay, just a second. Just a second. Let's say that's true. He's going. I'm just trying to. Shh.
I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars.
No, just one. I personally didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, you know, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story.
Emmett Moss claims his former friend, Nadine Drury, owes for unpaid loans. Nadine says Emmett broke the lease they were both on.
I'm just trying to get your mindset. You know, I hate people who scam the system. But you got this money from him. And your defense is that he was trying to scam somebody else, so you shouldn't really have to pay him back, even though it was his money.
It was his money.
It was his money
that
he took out of his bank and gave to you.
Right.
For no reason.
That I never agreed to pay back for a lease that he was legally on. He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You mean so you get to live there free?
No,
Well, just a second. So you get to live there free. If he paid for it for the months that you didn't, you got to live there free. He wasn't even living there. It's not as if he was living there and you didn't get to live there free. You lived there alone. And he was paying the rent.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you're not responsible for that once you get back on your feet?
We never talked about a repayment.
No.
That's not
okay. Now,
we definitely talked about repayment.
Now, I want you to explain to me and be very careful because, you know, I've been in this system a very long time. So I know about social services and I know about the system and I know about welfare and I know about food stamps. I know all about that. So you contact her.
Yes.
And she tells you she lost her job.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. So I found out through the payment portal that she hadn't paid rent.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're
I
past
contacted
that.
her about that. Well, there was.
Don't look up.
Apologies. I sent her money that night.
No. You contacted the portal, and then you had to have had a conversation with her.
Right.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Let's start with you contacted the portal, and you found out she hadn't been paying her rent. That was in January.
Correct. January the 2nd.
And January, she hadn't paid rent, and you called her, and she said to you...
She said to me that she didn't have money to pay, which I was aware of because she had previously told me that she I was aware that she had lost her job.
Just a second. How did you become aware that she had lost her job?
Because we were friendly with each other. We were talking several times a week via Facebook Messenger.
Okay, fine. You knew that she lost her job.
Yes.
And I assume you knew if she lost her job, and you were speaking several times a week. Let's be very careful. This isn't just calling the pay portal and finding out that this stranger who you met once wasn't paying her rent. You were speaking, and you knew that she had fallen on difficult times. And?
I did. I didn't...
Don't go up here. Right here.
I didn't know that she wasn't going to pay rent on time.
No, just a second. You didn't know what?
On the 2nd was when I found out that the rent hadn't been paid.
On the 2nd of January.
2nd of January.
Just look at me. On the 2nd of January, you found out the rent hadn't been paid. What did you do?
So I called Nadine to ask about it, and you told me that she didn't have the money. And so I said, okay, I have these extra funds because I, at the time, was also unemployed. I had been taking unemployment payments, and then the COVID payments.
And what?
The extra payments for COVID on top of unemployment, because this was 2020.
Welcome to Inflation 101.
Right. So all of my payments had been late and had come in a lump sum. So that is why I had extra
So your
money.
Unemployment and your COVID funds came in one lump sum.
Correct.
And I want you to think very, very carefully. And you're living where, sir?
Seattle.
With whom?
At the time, I was seeking a roommate.
No. Where were you living?
So I was living in Seattle.
In Seattle with whom?
No one.
By yourself?
Yes. Technically, someone was paying rent because they had moved out.
You're looking up at the sky.
Sorry.
Don't look up at the sky. So somebody had moved out of their apartment.
Yeah.
Which had been prepaid in rent.
Yes.
So you were living there rent-free.
No. This was my apartment that I'd lived in for 3 years. And someone else had moved in and then moved out. And they broke the lease, not me.
They broke the lease, but they paid the rent.
Correct. They paid their half. I was still paying my half of rent. I never defaulted on my rental payments in Seattle ever.
And they were still paying theirs.
Yes, so we were both each paying our respective parts of the rent. And I was paying rent in Utah.
And you were paying rent where the defendant was living. Okay. So I want you to think very carefully. When you got your unemployment and your extra COVID money in a lump sum, how much did you get?
What?
No, don't look over there. You know exactly how much you got.
Yeah,
You don't have to think about it. Just give me a number.
$10,000.
Well, that should last you for a little bit. And you got $10,000 on what date?
I don't remember.
Month.
It would have been in November.
Okay, so now she's run out of funds, and you say to her, go ahead.
By the time we get to January, I do not have $10,000. I have much less because of other circumstances.
Like what?
Like needing to purchase a car for the girlfriend that I stayed in town.
A car?
Yes.
What else?
Rental payments. That's it. Nothing.
You bought your girlfriend a car.
I did. Her car that she had was a beater, and
I
it
don't
was
care.
unsafe.
I don't care. What
Okay.
about your car?
I did use a down. I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars.
No, just one. I
yeah.
didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story. You're living by yourself with a roommate. The roommate moves out. Your girlfriend had a terrible car. You don't live with the girlfriend.
Don't.
But you bought
the
her a
girlfriend was-
car.
I-
You didn't have a car, but you bought her a car.
I had, if we need to back it up, I had given up my car in a bankruptcy earlier in the year because of.
In whose bankruptcy?
My bankruptcy.
Your bankruptcy.
That is why I didn't have
It's
a
getting better all the time. Okie
It
dokie.
was an interesting year.
That doesn't mean you don't owe money. It just means I have to know the characters that I'm dealing with.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay. While you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school?
I
That's either a yes or a no.
Emmett Moss has accused his former friend, Nadine Drury, of refusing to pay back loans. Nadine claims she was used by Emmett to scam the government.
So now you've got much less money from the $10,000. You bought your girlfriend a car, you had to pay her rent, you paid your own rent, you had other things from bankruptcies that you had before. So you have a little bit of money left in the bank.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
don't look
that
over there,
evening-
right here. No, look,
On that evening of the 2nd, I paid Nadine a total of $710, enough to cover the rent of $585, any fees it would cost her to go and withdraw that money from the bank, and she also asked for extra money for groceries.
Just a second. You acknowledge a $3,000 amount of money that he gave you. Am I right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
You say that
That
that's correct.
includes the money that he's saying that he spent on rent, that he gave me for rent, and he's also asking for his deposit.
I am
for
asking for my
The
deposit.
deposit
Right.
for the apartment back.
Okay, well, he's entitled to that. You have a new roommate who I'm sure you got a deposit from.
She chose to not
And if you didn't?
collect a deposit from
What?
the roommate.
Well, that's her problem because
I
she's
agree.
going to get the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's reasonable. She's going to get the deposit back when she leaves. When you leave, if you leave the place in good condition, he was never living there. So if you don't leave it in good condition, then it's on you. I want to know about this video that she wants me to look at, where you tell us some sort of a scheme you have to get more money from the government.
It wasn't a scheme.
Why don't you tell me about it? So far, we got $10,000 that was supposed to last you for 6 months, and you blew it on a car for your girlfriend. And so you may not call it a scheme. I want you to tell me why you had to have a zero bank account.
I didn't have to have
Not-
a zero bank account.
A more limited access to money. What were you applying for, sir?
So what
Not so up here, so here.
Okay. I was applying for a program to go into the trades. So it was like a work study program, like electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. And again, I didn't have a job, and unemployment had completely stopped. And as far
How many years did you collect unemployment?
it was less than 1 year.
How many years had you worked?
How many years have I worked?
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 16. So
Well,
it's
I'm
been
surprised
14.
the unemployment totally ran out because they kept extending unemployment. People were on unemployment for years during COVID.
When they cut me off December of 2020, they did not reestablish my claim. I kept applying and it was denied. So I don't know why, but it was.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work for customer service.
Okay. And the trade school that you wanted to go to was to prepare you for what?
To be an electrician was what I wanted to do.
An electrician?
Yes.
And was this an online program?
No, this was in person.
Where?
It was in Seattle.
And how much did they give you to go to that program?
They didn't give me money to go to the program, but the program was free of charge.
Okay. So the government paid the tuition?
I believe that
Well, somebody pays the tuition, sir.
Yeah.
So the government pays the tuition. And while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, how were you supporting yourself?
So
Were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes,
Yes.
I applied for food stamps and got food stamps. That is what I got.
So you applied for some sort of assistance while you were going to this trade school,
Correct.
which you're not practicing now, and you're not an electrician.
That is correct.
And in order to apply for food stamps, you have to have a certain amount of money is the maximum you can have in your bank.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's the fraud you're talking about. That's why he gave you the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean,
Just a second.
I also gave her the money because she was going to need the money for rent. Like, it was one of those situations where it was mutually beneficial for me to give her the money, but it wasn't.
You're looking up
as
at the sky.
scamming.
I understand what happened.
So I
I
wasn't
underst-
going to have any way to support myself. I needed something to the $2,000 was going to cover the rent for my place and my place in Seattle and my place in Utah, and then I wasn't going to have anything
I
left.
understand that it became mutually beneficial for you to advance her the money
Yes.
so that your bank account would have less in it so that you could receive assistance and also get free tuition at a trade school that you didn't use.
My intention was to use it, and I changed my decision later. That's
Do you think the trade school charged the government once you enrolled in it?
yes.
Yes, of course they did. And you know how much the tuition was in the trade school? Yes, you have to know.
$1,500.
No, it was free to you, but it wasn't free to the government.
Right,
The government
yeah, I
pays
think $1,500 was what I was made to understand.
baloney. You people really somehow deserve each other, but you owe him $3,000. Madam, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm a little bit shocked to be made out as a government scammer.
I mean, I lost my job and I wasn't able, and he bailed on the lease that he signed.
Because that wasn't ever my intentions.
I mean, I was alone. I had lost my job. I just didn't have any support.
Definitely careful about getting money from the government.
Just glad it's done. Glad I don't ever.
something wrong.
That's not the reason it died, though.
I have documents from the vet.
I'm talking. You don't want me just to dismiss your whole case, which I'm thoroughly prepared to do. I have other things to do today.
This is Judy. Karen Garlick is suing her former customer, Ashley Satimi, for slander and the cost of 2 miniature pigs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 3029, Garlic versus Simiti.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Garlick, you have a business. I don't know if this is your main business, but you sell miniature pigs.
That is correct. This is one of my major businesses.
How long have you been doing that?
About 18 years.
You have photographs of what your pigs look like?
Sure.
Yeah, take a look at them, please.
Do you want the ones that she got off of me?
No.
Oh, adult ones? I do have some adult ones. There's a couple photos for her.
Okay. I'm going to try to simplify this if I can. And these are babies, or are these?
Those are older ones. They're like a year old, 8 months to a year old.
How much do they weigh?
Typically, if you feed correctly, anywhere from about 12 pounds up to about 40 pounds. About the size of a medium-sized dog.
Okay. And do they live in the house?
These are house pets. So they're litter box trained. I try to train them before they ever leave. I spend a lot of time with that.
Okay. How much do you sell them for?
Typically, my prices range between about $2,000, depending on age and size, up to about $3,500.
And I assume that in this business, the smaller they are,
the more they cost.
Well, just
and
sort of
also
like
the younger they are, the more they cost.
Okay. You were buying these as pets for yourself?
Correct.
And you were going to buy 2?
Yes.
Where did you see the plaintiff advertising the piglets, or did you hear it by word of mouth?
Just Google.
Just tell me what would inspire you to get a pig instead of a dog.
Well, I have 3 dogs and 3 cats. But I went to the state fair and I saw them in the piglets in the birthing barn.
Okay, and you fell in love. Got it.
There we go.
Got it. So you bought 2 pigs. According to both of you, you gave a deposit for the pigs, correct?
Yes. She gave a deposit on each pig because the amount was more and she didn't have enough right then, so she's going to make payments.
Okay. And in total, she paid you how much?
She paid me $1,500 deposit on each piglet, and then she gave me 3 payments of $250 Zelle payments, which she was supposed to pay for $250 every 2 weeks.
Okay, so she paid you $3,750 altogether.
Yes, which she's reversed all that.
I understand.
Oh,
that.
okay.
And the total purchase price for the 2 pigs that she purchased?
Okay, each one was $2,700.
Okay.
And
well, let me go through something that each of you agree on. She purchased 2. You sent them to her.
Correct.
In transit, before she got them, one of them died.
Yes, due to complication in Spain. Okay.
One of them didn't die in your custody.
Correct.
Died in transit.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't know, but we know that certainly the
Correct.
piglet didn't die of old age. It died in transit, so she only received 1.
Right.
At that time. And what was the date of that?
She had it delivered on the 21st of September.
Okay. And when you contracted for these piglets, Miss Satimi, did you sign a contract?
I did not, no.
Did you get any paperwork at all from her?
I have text messages stating the amount owed.
No. Do you have a contract?
Didn't have a contract with her. I did send her multiple
Well, just a second. You didn't have a contract with her. So you got the pig, and there were no other terms that were agreed to by both of you in writing other than the price. And what was the total price?
$5,400 is what she owed total.
Yeah. And of that, she gave you $3,750. Okay. At some point, you took another piglet, Miss Satimi, to replace the one that had died in transit.
No, when Miss
Just a second. Well, you say you did, so you got to get your story straight. At some point, you accepted a second piglet from the plaintiff to replace the one who had died in transit.
It was get the pig or get no money back. So those are my 2 options.
Just a second. Well, that's true, Miss Satimi, because you don't have a contract with her, according to you, that you can show me. She doesn't either. So in a contract for an animal that I know I've purchased over the last 60 years from a breeder, it usually says that there is a health guarantee until you take the dog to a vet, or if the dog has a congenital illness and it's discovered by a vet, you get either a return of your money or pick of litter. There are all kinds of terms contained in a contract that I know I've always gotten, and so you understand them. If you bought these pigs for her and you bought them without any written conditions, then she has to.
I do have a written thing that was sent to her.
I don't care whether it was sent to her, whether or not she acknowledged it. You can't have a one-sided contract.
Agree.
You understand that.
I do.
You don't have a one-sided contract. So unless she agreed to that someplace, which she clearly did not, that's meaningless, what you're going to show me. And if you pay attention and don't shout out, maybe you'll find out that what I'm saying to her is to your benefit, and you're not supposed to interfere when the fact finder seems to be finding in your favor. So she was under no obligation to return your money.
No, she had.
So I'm just telling you, you accept. The answer is you accepted a second pig.
Yes, I did. Yep.
Was it in September?
It was. I didn't. Yes.
In September. On what date did you accept the second pig?
The second pig, I did not receive that until a month later, which was October 19th.
Fine. So these are a couple of questions I have specifically for you. The first pig that you got from her on September 21st is named what?
That is alive?
Yes.
That is Bacon.
And what did you name the second pig that you got on October 19th?
That was Hammy.
And according to your papers, you took Hammy and Bacon to the vet on the 28th of October.
26th, I brought them to the vet.
That's different from what you said here. I assume you have the paperwork from the vet.
Yep, I got the discharge summary.
Here you say in your answer that you took them on the 28th and you got an estimate for spaying them.
I went on the 26th, and at that point I found out that the pigs were not spayed as per...
As per what?
As per our conversation. I had conversations saying that the pig will be spayed. And on the 26th, I went to the vet, found out it was not spayed, and said, how much would it be to spay? I got a quote on the 28th, and that is...
Did you take the pigs back for the quote?
No.
So you, I'm
proof they were spayed.
Just a second. I'm talking. Okay. You don't want me just to dismiss your whole case.
No.
Right? Which I'm thoroughly prepared to do. I have other things to do today. All I know is you brought in 2 healthy pigs shortly after being seen by the vet, who described the pigs as happy and healthy. One of them died. What does that have to do with her? They're in your care. What does that have to do with her?
And owes for the cost of 2 miniature pigs. Ashley is countersuing for vet bills.
On the 26th, you took the pigs to the vet.
Correct.
Were the pigs given ivermectin?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes.
May I see, by the way, the vet papers from that date?
Absolutely. Would you like the quote as well, or just the...
I don't want the quote. I want the vet's notes. So you had both pigs from the 19th of October until you took the pigs to the vet on the 26th. So the 19th, 20th, 21st, 24th, 25th, and 26th.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes.
Yep is not an answer. Yes. And when you went to the vet for the pigs, according to you, the pigs were, and according to the vet.
Yep. Yes.
The pigs were healthy, according to you, playful. I'm going to read what they said.
Wouldn't say healthy.
Just a second. Well, that's what it says.
It says they have mites, mange,
No. What I'm telling you is what they said. Bacon, who you still have.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. And Hammy presented for examination. When Hammy arrived, she had a pendulous belly that the breeder attributed to a parasite, and she was dewormed with a product provided by the breeder, after which this appearance resolved. This is according to you. This is what you gave the vet. And Hammy began to gain weight.
Yes.
Both pigs are bright and active at home with excellent appetites. So far? That's what the vet is getting from you about the pigs.
Yep.
That they're both happy, healthy. She gave you stuff to deworm them. Hammy started to gain weight. And then the vet gave them this medicine. And 2 days later, Hammy died. This is from your history to the vet, that the pigs were fine. The vet gave both pigs this very strong medication, and I want you to describe what happened to the pig the day after you came back from the vet.
Perfectly fine.
Okay.
And can I just say that the ivermectin, that's the same stuff that Karen gave me.
Who knows how much the vet gave them? All I know is you brought in 2 healthy pigs shortly after being seen by the vet, who described the pigs as happy and healthy. One of them died. What does that have to do with her? They're in your care. What does that have to do with her?
Well, you're saying it was the medication. It's the same medication that was given.
It depends upon how much medication you give an animal.
This was a swine specialist.
Listen, I don't care, madam. I want you to understand that, A, you have no health guarantee. But even if you had a health guarantee, what I'm reading from the vet is you reported that the pigs were fine, happy and healthy. She had given you a certain amount of this to get rid of the parasites, which you reported to the vet worked. And then the pig is seen by the vet, who gives the pig more of that toxic if taken in too high a dose, and died.
Well, that's not the reason it died.
I'm reading your papers. How many days after Hammy was given this dose by the vet did the pig die? How many days after? I'm reading you. I have your papers. 3. Well, then maybe you did something 3 days later. Maybe you fed it something wrong. It's not her problem. It's your problem.
What about
by that time, she has sent you a piglet that you've had for 10 days. Now, how many pigs do you have that were purchased from her that you currently have home?
1.
Okay. And that would be bacon.
Correct.
What was the total price for bacon?
$750.
Well, that's not what bacon cost.
Bacon cost $2,500.
$27.
$2,500. If you can look at my text messages that I have
Okay,
here.
may I see the text message, please?
These are two
Hold on.
She's got confirmations on that one and the second page as well.
Okay, cash price $4,900, Karen. Finance price is always more. I don't charge interest. Me. This is what I think is fair. I owe you $4,900 for the 2 pigs. I gave you $3,000. I owe you $1,900. PayPal took $90 because I did the PayPal protection. I will absolve. You mean absorb that and round the remaining out to $2,000. I pay you $250 each week.
Every other week.
And she says, okay. So now we have a contract. Perfect. Would that be okay? Yes. And then you say, do they have any vaccines yet? Yes, they will be vaccinated. So you agree on that. Do you have any warranty on the pigs? This is September 20th. I don't want to accept delivery of brown one if they are sick and going to die in a few weeks. Yes. 90-day replacement. Okay. 90-day replacement is what she says. Not your money back. 90-day replacement. That's your contract. Could you please now show me where she agrees to, I don't see it, and I don't want to look through this whole thing. Show me where the price includes spaying.
That would be on her website.
No, it's not on the website.
No.
I have a...
Just a second. Show me there, which is what I asked you for, there in the messages.
Better. How about a voicemail from her where she has stated that they're going to be...
Could you just do me a favor, madam? Yeah. Would you show me there?
I believe it is a verbal voicemail from her. I don't believe it is written. I believe it's verbal voicemail.
What do you mean you believe?
I don't think it's in this.
So it's not in that?
I will continue looking.
Yeah,
but I know
continue looking.
I will.
It's not in there. No. Okay. Now you say you have a voicemail where she says that the $4,900 includes spaying. I'll hear it.
I absolutely do.
By the way, were they 2 females that were brought?
Females.
Okay.
Your Honor, I spay all males, but I never spay females.
Listen to me.
Okay.
She says she has a voicemail that says that the $4,900 for the 2 pigs includes spaying.
I'd like to see
She says she has it. I want to see it.
I also have a loss. You know, I shouldn't have got this spayed before it went, but that was my understanding is you wanted it done.
Just explain to me, this says, if I'm hearing correctly, that, okay, but press it, I don't know where, we'll give it to Sarah.
And
It should be 40 seconds.
So we're both at a loss with this because I haven't had this happen either. You know, I understand where you're upset you lost the one. So please get a hold of me so we can get something worked out because I understand your frustration, but you got to understand mine as well. I also have a loss. You know, I shouldn't have got this spayed before it went, but that was my understanding is you wanted it done prior to going. And that's the discussion I had gotten from you. And so I went and got that done. Plus, you couldn't take her until after the 17th. So we had to arrange the shipping, you know, after that point. So the other one's getting delivered also tonight. But, you know, this kind of puts me in a predicament.
Just explain to me, this says, if I'm hearing correctly, that one of the piglets was spayed.
they both were spayed. The one that died was spayed. That's why it died, in my professional opinion. I went through 4 years of veterinary technology school as well.
Okay, so the one that died, the one that didn't make it in transit, was spayed.
Yes, correct.
Just a second.
And the
What
other
if-
one.
And Bacon.
Evidence. Bacon and Hammy, whatever the first one she called.
Were both spayed.
Yes, I have documents from the vet.
May I see them, please?
That is not true. I actually
receipt.
spoke with her, and she said
There's the
her
receipt.
son mixed it up.
Birth dates are on there from the vet and the color and everything.
Just a second.
I actually called the vet as well.
You can't tell me what the vet said to you. What color are the pigs that you got?
They are chipmunk color, but there are multiple in their litter. She tried selling me two.
Just to answer my question.
They're chipmunk
What
color.
are they? They're chipmunk
They're
color.
brown, yep.
One of them striped
I'm not sure what you would consider
That's what
straight.
chipmunks is called, striped.
and red and white.
That was the one for sure.
They were both spayed on September 13th.
Correct.
Now tell me, you went to reverse all the charges that you had paid for her because you had paid her a certain amount of money, $3,750. Did you get all that money back?
No.
How much did you get back?
$3,000.
And then the Zelle account suspended that.
Just a second.
They took it from me and they've got to suspend it because she claimed
Just
I
a
was
second.
fraudulent.
Just a second. She now has 2 pigs. What happened to them in her care is, as you understand, is not.
I have 1.
I don't care whether you have 1 now, madam. I just told you you had 2 pigs that were healthy according to the vet. After you had had the replacement pig for over 10 days, it died after it had seen a vet that reported it healthy. You say it was 3 days. If it was the next day, I would say it was the shot the vet gave him that caused her to die. But you said it was 3 days later. I don't know what you fed it. I don't know what you did to it. I don't know who else took care of it. It's irrelevant. She's entitled to her money for 2 pigs. And if you had that reversed by the bank, you can't do that. You had a 90-day replacement for the pigs, and she replaced it, and she has received 0 money.
$750.
That's 0 money.
I don't have it. And I don't believe that it's on hold either.
It is.
Just a second. You don't have what?
The $750 I sent her, I did a dispute on it, and they said that because it was not fraudulent, she still has it.
For the $5,000 that these 2 pigs cost, you paid, according to you, $750.
That's correct.
Well, you owe her the rest. You owe her the money. I'm finding, now we're finished.
Okay.
Now we're finished with testimony, and I'm telling you that the death of one of the pigs, you have one, the death of the other one, happened in your care. Whatever it was, if you don't want to blame the vet, blame yourself, not her. You had a healthy pig when that pig went to the vet over a week after it arrived from her. So it's your fault, and you owe her the rest of the money. Did you get the $750 from her? That's either a yes or a no.
No.
No. You owe her $4,900 for the 2 pigs. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. It's dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
My slander.
It's
over.
dismissed.
Okay.
I tell you one other thing. If you post anything derogatory about her business again, she's going to see you back in court, either mine or somebody else's. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Some people think they get something for nothing anymore, and it's just the way it is. People try to cheat you.
You know, I got 3 pigs from her. 2 of them died.
You know, I get so attached because I'm very passionate about my animals and very passionate about my business and my customers.
And 2 out of 3, that's not a good record.
So this is just really heart set to me because
2 pigs dying, there's something goofy going on there.
anytime a little animal dies like that, I take heart.
Moral of the case, if you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a pet, have a contract in writing as to what your expectations are so that you have a price, you have whatever guarantees there are, you have whatever exchange policies there are. Because what happened in there is I had to create a contract out of
nothing, out of
text mails,
voicemails,
out of text messages. I agreed to pay. Yes, well, that's a meeting of the minds as to a term, but that's an unprofessional way of the plaintiff to deal with a business that is a substantial business if she has 18 pigs. And it's really not a smart way for the defendant, to whom money is important, $5,000 has to be important to her, would go into a business arrangement without a formal writing.
Yeah, and just a secondary point that I was thinking of is we would want that contract to exist for anything, for a car, for a transfer of funds, but especially you want those details and those guarantees for a life. You're talking about a living animal.
Right.
And I think that requires, from both ends, a lot more words, a lot more sign pages, something more.
It requires a contract.
A contract.
It requires a contract. And she's in the breeding business. She's been doing it for 18 years. She should have a contract.
Listing whatever her terms may be. Maybe it's you don't get a refund, but I'll send you, replacement. That's perfectly fine. But all of those expectations.
You rented a room in a house that you own?
I was being harassed so much, filming me with my cameras in the house, making my life a living hell.
You don't like where you're staying? Move.
I called the police 4 times.
I'm telling you to move! Mr. Pasquarillo, you all seem to have a lot of things that you brought to me, and I actually think that you're all overthinking this case. I, however, am not overthinking it. It's relatively simple. You rented a room from the defendant in a house that you own.
Yes, ma'am.
It didn't work out. They didn't like he and his girlfriend? Fiance. Didn't get along with you. You didn't get along with them. You had problems with each other's lifestyles. You are no longer there, and you want your security deposit back, which I, of course, will entertain. But you're asking for emotional distress, nuisance, filing a false restraining order, harassment. That's not happening. I want you to get over that. You had a tenancy that didn't work out. And if it didn't work out, and if you didn't do anything to the property, you're entitled to your security deposit back. You moved in when?
December 1st.
What do you do for a living?
I own a company.
What kind of company?
It's a janitorial company.
For how long?
Approximately 9 years.
Do you have employees?
Yes.
How many?
Approximately 20.
You pay him on the books or off the books?
On.
Was this an interim room that you were renting from him, or were you planning on staying here for a long time?
It was a 6-month lease.
Is there any reason why you took a room, if you have a company for 9 years with 20 employees, that you pay on the books, that you were living in a room?
Yes, I'm going through a divorce. I moved to Los Angeles 2007 and got with my wife for 15 years. We're going through a divorce, and during the pandemic, she was raised in Riverside, so I had to follow her all the way to Riverside because she has 3 of my children. I don't have any family or friends here on this side of the country. I'm from Florida. So I was by myself, and I had to rent a room by myself.
And the children stayed with their mother in the house, in your property?
Yes, we are currently going through a custody battle.
So what you're telling me is that a room was what you could afford?
That's all I could afford at the moment.
Okay.
We're still going through community property.
Okay. So you found his room.
I was moving from one house to another because they were selling their home. The housing market is very, very bad right now. It's very hard to find rent in what I can afford. So I found his, along with 2 others, and I liked his location, and I moved in under the lease agreement that he presented to me.
Okay. So he presented a lease agreement to you. You signed it. You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Your Honor, there's a couple of discrepancies. With
Just a second.
Sorry.
I didn't ask you anything yet. There are no discrepancies. He rented a room from you and he signed a lease. I asked him to see the lease.
He started moving his belongings in November 13th of 22.
And?
Then he officially moved himself in on December. first.
Why is that important?
When he moved in, he brought a refrigerator into the house that was infested with roaches.
Just a second. Do you have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
I'm trying to go through it. I have so much here that...
I know, you have a lot there.
Okay. Here it is. I found it, by the way.
All right, there's a very big lease with your signature on it on November 7th. Okay, so now I have the lease. You moved in on December 12th. When did you move out?
When my girlfriend got back from her trip from Spain and Italy is when I was able to move, because she was able to help me. I couldn't do it by myself. I don't remember the exact date.
You have the date when he moved out?
Yes. So I have a timeline here. 4/21, he moved out, and at that point...
Okay, 4/21.
Yep.
And what was the monthly rent, sir?
$1,000.
And how much was your security?
$500. If I could say, Your Honor, I'm not here because we had a little spat.
No, I know you didn't have a spat. It was a terrible 4 months.
It's a breach of a lease, Your Honor. I mean, they had 3 rules. It says it right here in his lease, 3 rules and regulations. And on the 17th, I got a new set of rules. Then I was only told I can do my laundry once a week. Then I was told that my girlfriend couldn't stay past 9 o'clock. The rules were changing as they went on, making my life a living hell.
Well, then you move. How old are you?
I'm going to be 50, and this
You're
is my
going to be
very
50.
first...
Just a second. You're going to be 50.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, rules are what people live by. I assume that that's one of the reasons that you're going through a divorce and you have custody, unless it was a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I don't know which one it was, and I actually don't care. What I'm telling you is, if something is terrible and you're 50 years old, you say, I'm done here. I'm leaving.
I was going to do that, Your Honor. I was looking for places to stay. The housing market is almost impossible in my...
So what is... That's not his fault. That's your fault.
It's not his fault for taking away my quiet peace and enjoyment of life? Filming me with my cameras in the house, not telling me I'm being monitored?
Let me explain something to you, sir. You're a big boy. I say this to people all the time. You don't like where you're staying? Move.
I could.
Sometimes I have sympathy for somebody who is really down and out, and they say, I really can't cobble the money together to find month's rent and a month's security. I was trying to save my money. That's not in your case. You've had a business for 9 years with 20 employees who you pay on the books, and you have 3 children. So that's not your situation. What I'm telling you is, not everything is a lawsuit. And I know that you're suing him for $10,000 because he violated the peaceful enjoyment of your life. Okay? Move. So, and I don't necessarily believe it, but I actually find it amusing for a lawyer to tell you, well, stop paying rent, and you'll deal with it when you come up with an unlawful detainer because you are staying without paying rent.
Suing for pest control fees and filing a false restraining order.
You're a grown man. You run a big business. You're not supposed to stay in a place that's terrible.
Judge, the business is in community property right now, and...
I don't care. That's not his fault.
I don't own the full business. I don't get the full money.
Hey, I'm telling you, I asked you what you did. You said, I own a business. I have 20 employees. It's a janitorial business, and I needed a place right away. I took his room, and what I'm telling you is, you have a car?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Where does your girlfriend live?
She lives 2 cities away.
Okay, well...
But there's another aspect of this, Your Honor. That's why there's so much evidence up here. I was being harassed so much that I didn't know what to do anymore. I was given advice by an attorney, stop paying him, and you will deal with it when you go to the unlawful detainer hearing, and we'll see if it gets solved there.
You went to an attorney? Just a second.
Yes.
You consulted with an attorney who gave you advice?
Yes.
Is this an attorney that you knew who worked for you? Or is this someone that you found that was a specialist in this field of landlord and tenant?
It's someone that was a specialist in this field. Problem is, this is Riverside and this is Los Angeles. He's a Los Angeles.
I don't care. Now, lawyers don't work for free. What did he charge you?
Nothing. It was a consultation.
Charged you nothing for a consultation?
It was a 20-minute conversation.
20 minutes?
Yes.
I get a bill for 20 minutes for $750. I don't know how you got your consultation for nothing. So, and I don't necessarily believe it, but I actually find it amusing for a lawyer to tell you, well, stop paying rent, and you'll deal with it when you come up with an unlawful detainer because you are staying without paying rent.
Your Honor,
That's-
I filed an incident with Fair Housing. I called the police 4 times.
I'm
filed a
telling you
restraining
to move.
I couldn't
You're
move,
not-
Your Honor.
What are you?
I
No.
couldn't move. I couldn't
Okay,
move.
Mr. Pasquarella, I can't help you, sir. You want your security deposit back? I have to see if you left a mess. If you didn't leave a mess, then you get your $500 security back. Except, I have a question. Did you pay December's rent?
Yes, yes,
Did you pay January's rent?
Yes.
February?
yes.
March?
He did not pay February.
Don't speak. March's rent.
I didn't pay March or April, but it was already litigated.
No. I don't care. You moved out April 21.
Yes.
Did you pay March's rent? I'm going to ask you for proof.
I don't believe I paid March.
Okay, so you didn't pay March's rent of $1,000. So already you don't get your security deposit back.
But he was already awarded this in a previous case.
What? Previous case?
In the previous case, he was awarded in the unlawful detainer hearing. The judge granted him March and April.
Oh, so he got March and April's rent.
Yeah, he got March and he didn't receive it.
And
yet.
just a second. Did you pay him March and April's rent?
No, I haven't. Not at the moment.
Well, I'm not an appellate court. You have to go get that from someplace, sir. You have to get that from him. You have to file a judgment. You have to attach his business. You have to do what you have to do. If the judge awarded you March and April, which I would have considered. Anyway, Mr. Pasquarella, I'm done with your case. I'm going to get to the counterclaim. You're not entitled to security deposit back because you didn't pay rent for 2 months. Okay, now let's get to your counterclaim. You had a hearing before a judge in an unlawful detainer?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and you testified? Speak.
Sorry.
That's
was
either
granted.
a yes or a no. Did you testify?
Yes.
Somebody say, raise your right hand, you swear to tell the
Yes.
truth? And judge asked you questions?
Yes.
And you answered questions?
Correct.
Did the same thing for him?
Yes.
And they ordered him to pay the 2 months' rent?
Yes.
And then he left?
Yes.
And he's no longer living with you as of April 21st?
Correct.
Okay. What did you tell that judge that he owed you aside from rent? Is not an answer. What did you tell the judge that he owed you other than March and April's rent?
I told the judge that he owed me for the court harassment hearings.
Now, just a second. I'd like to see where you not from a book that you have.
Sorry.
Show me where you told the judge other things that you were claiming he did, including the parking fines in the development.
So this is everything that he owes me here.
I didn't ask you for everything he owes you. That's not what I asked you. I said, what did you tell the judge in the previous hearing that he owed you?
I only asked for the back rent due.
Oh, so what are you showing me?
This was for the small claims case.
Just a second. So after you went before a housing court to get him out because he hadn't paid rent, you went to small claims court.
I was just responding to a civil case that he had filed against me.
Well, his civil case is dismissed. Okay?
That's what
He hasn't paid a judgment that he owes. May I see that, please?
Your Honor, he also asked the judge. Okay, he also. Okay.
Just a second.
Sure.
Okay. Value of the remainder of the lease. That you're not getting.
Okay.
You happy to see him go?
Yes.
Great, he's gone. Court filing fees. I may think about that because he stopped paying rent on the advice of some idiot lawyer that he followed, this man who owns a business. Sheriff's filing fees. What fees were that for? For the unlawful
to serve
detainer?
him the eviction paperwork to post it on the door.
Crisis management fees. What is that?
That was for my advice to with the lawyer.
You don't get that. A valve that went over something?
Oh, his parking ticket.
Yeah, he got a parking fine when he was living there.
Oh, well, I have that. A parking fine.
Yes.
Are you responsible for that?
Yes, I already paid it. I have
All
the
right,
receipt
can I
here.
see how much was the parking fine?
The parking fine was $50.
Okay. Did you know that you got a violation, sir, Mr. Pasquarella, when you were parking?
Yes, Judge, I would love to explain that. In one of the text messages that I have, Allie, his fiance, threatened to have my car ticketed. I have been living at Canyon Lake for 3 years. I had never even came close to getting a ticket. Ironically, 2 weeks later, I get a ticket right after she threatens to have my car ticketed to the POA. Now, to my understanding, she's been in Canyon Lake for a very, very long time, since she was a little girl, and she has relationships there. I
don't know that. You can't prove any of that, sir. You got a ticket.
So
you got a ticket. They have a picture. You have a car that the license plate is.
I also have a text message of her saying she's going to get my car
Just a second. I'm just
ticket.
asking you whether that's your license plate.
Yes, it is. When the harassment wouldn't stop, I filed a restraining order.
Well, this is your filing against him.
So I did file one once he started getting aggressive.
What happened with those dollars for the filing fee?
And then I have another receipt for no return of the POA ID card or the POA decal for his car.
What is that?
Because we live in a gated community, you have an ID card that they give you and a decal that they put on your car so you don't get tickets. Or if you do get a ticket, they know whose house to send it to. And that was $100 each, and I have a receipt for that.
Can I see what he's showing you?
And it says his name right at the top.
Did you pay this bill?
I did.
Would you please, Kevin, show this to the plaintiff? You know what that's for? It's your name on it.
It's a POA card. That card was thrown away in the trash. I mean, I don't have no use for it.
Then that's a problem. Then you owe him $200. That's $290. Anything else, sir?
I believe that the small claims fee is...
Forget it. I'm not giving you the small claims fee. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
I lost another tenant due to Keith's behavior.
Let's go. Let's go.
And
let's move on. Move on.
He owes me $900 in lost rent from that other tenant.
No, he doesn't.
Because he's
I
scared.
said let's move on.
Okay.
So far, he owes you $290.
And the court harassment filing fees. They're charging me $450 to respond to a restraining order that he put forth.
Oh, just a minute. Did you file a restraining order against him?
I sure did.
Okay. And when did you file that?
I don't remember the exact date.
Do you have the date? If you don't remember the date, do you have the date?
It was January 28th.
January 28th.
That was the day I was served with the paperwork. And
of 2023.
Yes. My witness was also served with one, too.
Just a second. My question, Mr. Pasquarella. You moved out in April of 2022?
23, he moved out.
23. And when did you file this harassment case against him for an order of protection?
I don't remember the exact date.
Well, can I see the papers, please?
I believe I have them here.
When the harassment wouldn't stop, I filed a restraining order.
Okay, so March 27th. That's a response. Hold on. Let's see if I have the actual filing date.
Can I see it, please?
2023. Here's the receipt for the $145 for the evictions process.
I can't hear a word you're saying, sir. I'm reading.
Okay.
Well, this is your filing against him.
So I did file one a month later, once he started getting aggressive.
Okay, so he filed one and you filed one. So you both bothered the courts.
Yes.
Both of you. What happened with those cases?
His was...
Don't speak from your chair. Do you hear me? What happened with those cases?
They were both dropped.
Mine was dismissed by the judge.
Were they both dismissed?
Yes, they were both dismissed.
That's the answer. You owe him, Mr. Pasquarella, $290. We are finished. Your claim is dismissed. Goodbye.
This court is adjourned.
Throwing my property away? You know, blaming me for a roach problem they already had?
He moved a little mini fridge in that apparently was roach infested.
I was done with it months ago, many months ago, but unfortunately I couldn't move. I'm in a town where, I don't have any friends or family to help me. I just met my girlfriend, and I'm not going to bring this luggage on her. So
he was trying to squat for free in order to save money to move somewhere else. I don't know what he was trying to do.
I'm ready to move forward, but the thing I'm disappointed about is not even the money necessarily. It's about there's no protection for tenants.
Watch out and really understand your lease before you sign it.
You know, Sarah, I understand that you don't completely agree with the premise that I start from.
Sure.
If you hate where you're living and you have any capability at all, you shouldn't stay there. And then if you leave and your landlord sues you for breach of the lease because you've moved out, and if you have a legitimate reason why you moved out, that you were being harassed that your landlord was a peeping Tom, that he would come into your house at night and go through your underwear drawers, whatever it was, and we've had all of those, then you entertain that and say you hate an absolute right to break his lease. I don't get, and the example that I always give and have given for a quarter of a century is, if you go to a restaurant and you order a sirloin steak, and the waiter brings it over, and you cut it, and you taste it, you say, oh my God, this steak is bad. And you proceed to finish the steak, and when the bill comes, you say, it was the worst steak I ever ate, I'm not paying the bill. Not in my world. In my world, if you cut into the steak and say, you know what, I'm not eating this steak that costs $42, bring me a bowl of Cheerios for $12, that I can understand, and that's fair. But if you stay in the house and eat the steak, and there's not something that really prohibits you. I mean, if you're somebody who's challenged and you're living in a small group home, and it's not easy for you to find another facility, that's a whole different ball of wax. This is a man who says he's a CEO of a company with 20 employees. That's what he told me. And he's living in a place where he feels harassed, and his girlfriend can't stay past 9 o'clock. You know, I have zero sympathy for that.
I can appreciate that. I think just the undertones, this particular situation, I may agree with you a little bit more after hearing your reasoning, but I do think it can be more challenging than you and I realize on occasion to move. I mean, that can be a big deal. And of course, he held himself out as a CEO with 20 employees in what he said was successful business. I'm thinking that that wasn't the case, and he was a little maybe too embarrassed to state that, but that was my position. So
yeah, but that's the answer.
If you have the opportunity to leave, that's what you should do. I agree with that.
And he left. And he came here with his girlfriend. Now, I don't know if they're living in the same place now, but certainly she would come to visit him. That was one of the things that he was objecting to, that you couldn't stay past 9 o'clock. Well, so you put your tushy in the car and you go to her house, which is 2 cities away. I have zero sympathy. If you ate the steak, you're supposed to pay for it. You sold a car to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
What she is doing is she is manipulating the contract.
You signed the documents. You knew now what you were buying.
The contract that I signed was trash, was garbage.
That's your problem.
No, ma'am, it's not.
I'm telling you, it's your problem.
Defective vehicle.
You took possession of the Saturn Vue. I know you took possession of it because he drove it to work.
Thank you.
Just a second. So I want you to not waste my time anymore telling me that there was a bait and switch.
What I'm telling you is that when I had the Saturn Vue, I took the Saturn Vue to Walmart to get the alignment and the tire. I found out that the car was a junk car. She came to my house. Within that evening, when we did this contract, it was for the Chevy Impala because the car had needed a whole lot of work.
Let me explain something to you, Miss Walls.
This contract
what I want to explain to you is this. This case is don't raise your hand. Okay. This case is very long, and it's got a lot of little tentacles. However, if what you're saying to me is you never felt as if you had bought this car because you were tricked into buying it, right? Is that, just a second, that it was never yours?
No, that's not what I'm saying, Ms.
Well, then don't waste my time with all this.
Only thing I'm saying is this contract was not about the Saturn Vue. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Fine. Let's put this away. This is dated September 21st. On September 21st, did you take possession of the Saturn? That's my question, very carefully. On what date did you take possession of the Saturn?
On the 23rd.
2 days later.
Yes.
Just a second. 2 days later, okay? And when you took possession of the Saturn, the very next thing that you did with it was go to the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yes.
Both of you went to the Department of Motor Vehicles because this title to the car says that it's in your name.
Yes.
This is in your name, so you just pay attention. Okay. You have to be there for it to be in your name. You're there,
Ms. Judy.
And it says additional owners, because there was still money owed on the car, was the plaintiff. Do you see?
The title was never in her name.
It doesn't.
And what I'm trying to explain to you is when we went there, On the title, it said $100 was owed for the Saturn View.
I don't care what kind of scam the two of you are pulling on the tax department. I don't want you to think that I'm stupid.
No, ma'am.
You went there with her, took possession of the Saturn, went with her to motor vehicles, signed the documents which would indicate you're the owner of the Saturn, and that was done. The date issued was the 28th of September. My next question to you, Miss Walls, is on the 23rd, when you got the Saturn.
I didn't get the Saturn on the... I'm sorry, I'm confused. I made a mistake. I apologize to the court. Because the same day, I took the car to Walmart. The same day, we came back to... She met me at my apartment. We sat on the balcony and did this contract for the Chevy.
I don't care about the Chevy anymore.
Okay, all right.
I don't care about the Chevy anymore.
Yes, ma'am, all right.
Don't say that name.
All right. Okay.
You told me, Miss Walls,
I did
that
tell you
this contract was written on the 21st.
I was mistaken.
No, it was written on the 21st.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I promise you, it wasn't.
Well, show me a different document that says something other than the 21st.
My proof is that when the same day the car was bought was the same day we went to the DMV to get the tag. On the same day that we went to get the tag, that was the day of me taking ownership of the Saturn View, which is on the 28th. I could read back to you what you said before. You said it was 2 days later that you switched. I made a mistake.
It was 2 days later that you switched from the Impala, which I said I'd never say again, to the View. You said 3 days later.
No,
okay, then let's get back.
I was mistaken.
Just a second. Don't clear anything up for me. I'm going to get a timeline. Put your hand down. How did you get to the Department of Motor Vehicles?
We drove the Saturn View.
Okay. The two of you drove the Saturn...
On the 28th.
Yes, it was the 28th.
The day of the purchase of the Saturn View.
Just a second. The two of you drove the Saturn View on the 28th to the Department of Motor Vehicles.
And
now, don't speak. The two of you didn't drive. One of you drove, and one of you was the passenger. Who drove?
I think she drove. She drove.
Okay. Where was the car parked on the 28th?
On the 28th?
Well, just a second.
Go ahead.
I can see it's slippery. Where was the car parked on the 28th?
Your Honor, can I go back a little bit, please?
No.
Okay.
I asked you where
it was parked.
No,
it was parked at her house on the 21st to the 28th, because I parked it at her house. So the 28th, it was at her house.
Did she?
Okay. Sorry. Okie
dokie. Stand up. You're her son. You work full time.
Yes, ma'am.
Move over there. Who do you work for?
At the time, I was working for Caterpillar.
Where are they located?
Lafayette, Indiana.
And how far was that from your mother's house?
10 minutes away.
And you were living with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times did you drive the Saturn to work? How many days?
2 weeks.
From when to when?
From
Well, let
September.
me put it to you this. When did your job end?
My job ended October 30th.
And what was the first day you drove this car to work?
October 1st.
You never drove the car to work before that?
No, ma'am, I have not.
How were you getting to work before that?
Uber, sometimes Lyft.
Now, your mother had this car at her house. Why didn't you take this car before?
Because they were rationing out their agreement upon the car. I was told that the car needed to be worked on, that way I couldn't use it because it was undrivable.
Okay, and you did, in fact, drive it on October 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
So if it was undrivable before October 1st, someone made it drivable.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and at some point, the car was taken to a mechanic.
Yes, ma'am.
That was before October 1st, because you drove the car October 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long did the car stay in the mechanic?
It couldn't have been no more than 2 days because I drove it on October 3rd. But when I drove it to work on October 3rd.
October 1st, you drove it.
Yes,
was
ma'am.
the first day that you said you... September 28th was the day the car went in to get fixed, 2 days before?
I do not know.
Well, if you drove the car October 1st and it was parked in front of your mother's house and you were told you couldn't drive it until it was fixed, let's start with this. How long was it parked in front of your mother's house when you were told you couldn't drive it?
I want to say 3 days.
Okay, so on the 27th, it was there.
Yes, ma'am, I was there. I'd seen it.
Okay, and now your mother goes on the 28th to the Department of Motor Vehicles. And at the Department of Motor Vehicles, you say you don't have a title because this is your flip business, whatever. They issue a new title with you as a lien holder on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I want to see any proof of how much money she was paying for the car.
Oh, that's the contract, and I have...
No, that's not the contract. That's a contract for a different car.
She didn't... No, it wasn't a contract.
Well, if this is your business, madam, and I assume you brought this up,
yes, ma'am.
then the first thing you have to write on here is what the product is.
Yes, ma'am.
You have everything here but what the product is.
I know. It was a rough draft because I thought this was my free. It was a rough draft. I worked so many
Even
hours.
if it's a rough draft, you listen, I'm selling this car, this is the amount of money, this is the payment schedule. So, let's
Okay, I do have proof in text messages, she said.
That's what I want to see.
I do have proof in text messages.
Just a second, Joan. Show me a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't relate to the price of the car.
That's the contract. Well, that's not the contract. I'm sorry, that's text message.
No, the car was $3,000. How much money can you prove to me that you gave to her as a down payment? You were supposed to give her a $300 down payment, plus you were supposed to pay her $150 every month. So did you give her the $300?
In cash.
I want you to prove that to me. Show me where you took it from. She says you did not give her $300. It says, and the contract says I was supposed to give you $300 on the 2nd of October. That's you talking.
For the... Okay.
And, sorry. And clearly, it says I was supposed to give you $300 on the 2nd of October.
But keep reading, Miss Judy.
Yes.
It was for the...
At the end of October.
But what, for what car, though?
Just a second. And the contract... Don't say it. I was supposed... Okay. Right now, we're talking about communications you had on September 28th when you signed the documents for the other car. I don't want to hear Impala anymore. You knew now what you were buying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I knew it, and she knew what I was buying.
Just a second.
I was buying the car that you told me not to speak of.
Oh, no. This is the car you were buying.
No, ma'am.
Well, then, I'm sorry I can't...
What she's giving you, ma'am, what she's giving you is proof of the transaction for the car that I'm not supposed to speak of. Yes, I was supposed to give her $300 a month for the car that I'm not supposed to speak of. That was supposed to be the contract.
Ms. Walls, I actually have had it with you.
I understand.
I actually have had it with you because I've been to motor vehicles many times in my 81 years. And I won't confuse, and neither would you, the purchase of a four-wheel 2004 Saturn Vue, which is what you signed that you were buying on September 28th with an Impala. That's what you bought. I don't want to hear anything else about it.
What makes it difficult, Miss Judy, is because the Saturn was trash, was garbage.
That's your problem.
No, ma'am, it's not because...
I'm telling you, it's your problem.
Oh, my goodness. What she is doing is she is manipulating the contract. She is manipulating the evidence. That's why she didn't put the... If it was about the Saturn Vue, ma'am, it would have been on the contract. Don't you think it would have been on the contract? She do this for a living.
Do I do this for a living? No, this is what I do for a living.
No, I'm saying...
This is what I do for a living. I look at what you swore to at the Department... No, speak not. What you swore to at the Department of Motor Vehicles, that you were purchasing a Saturn, that there was a lien holder because you hadn't paid for it, and they were waiting for the delivery of the title, which now I have. This is what is registered in the state of Indiana. This is what your son was driving. He was not driving an Impala to work. He was driving... Don't speak. He was driving the Saturn to work. And how do I know that? Because she repossessed it from his place of business. You didn't say, I didn't buy a Saturn. I bought an Impala. They don't even look alike. Take this, whatever this piece of junk is.
He drove the car that I'm not supposed to speak. That's the car that he was taking to work. The car that we're not supposed to speak about, that's the car that he was taking to work.
Just a second. You just wrote in your answer, I may be wrong, but I'm looking at your answer, and I'm looking at your communications with her on September 28th. and it says, and the contract, I was supposed to give you $300 on the 2nd of October, which I intend to hold up my end of the contract. The car is in my name. You have no legal right to take it. Your name is not even on the title. If you mess with that car, you're going to jail for grand theft auto. I have not reached the contract to put you on the contract, to put you on the title that I sold. And she says to you before that, I told you that it needed new tire, a wheel alignment, and bearings. Once again, you gave me no money down and no money at all, and you're driving around in my car. So who should be suing who?
I should be suing her because what you are reading is about the car. That's the car he drove to work. Pull him back up here and ask him, did he ever drive the Impala to work?
No. Shh. Madam, let me tell you what you wrote in your answer. Because what happened here is you wanted her to do work. Now tell me what he did to your car.
When he got there, he opened the car door. I thought he was going to hit me.
Nope.
Hit my windshield.
I didn't do that either.
He was out of control.
Did you put your hands on the car?
On the handle, yes.
You have no right.
Judge, case 3011, Lucero versus Block.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Lucero, this is your sister.
Yes.
And she has a daughter.
Yes.
Her daughter is challenged.
Yes.
She and your daughter, according to what I read, were living together. And there came a time when your sister decided that it was best for her to go into a senior community.
That's correct.
Leaving her daughter to find another place to live. When was that?
In March of 22.
Have you always been involved with the care of both your sister and her daughter?
More recently or more actively in the past year.
How old is your niece?
38.
So you started to look for a facility for her, someplace where she would be safe. And you were referred by whom to the defendant's group home?
Well, it turned out my daughter had paid for her another month's rent at where they were living so we could figure out what we were going to do. And the owner of that place told her she wanted her out now. So she was actually homeless for a week.
You mean your niece?
Yes. And it turned out she got an infection and she had to go to the hospital. And so when she got discharged from the hospital, they're the ones that found his organ.
So the social worker at the hospital was instrumental in finding the defendant's facility?
Yes.
Your lawsuit is alleging that you had to, because of circumstances which you will tell me about, take her out of the defendant's group home. It is a group home, I assume, sir?
Yeah.
And you had to do that relatively quickly, and there was some sort of a kerfuffle with the defendant where he scratched your car, destroyed some of the property that your niece had. Mr. Block, in his answer, has a whole different scenario, which he's going to tell me about. On what date, Mr. Block, did the plaintiff's niece come to live in your group home?
I am
You don't know.
sure on the date.
You don't know. On what date?
March 14th of 2022.
I want you to describe the group home that you run, Mr. Block. How many residents do you have?
I have anywhere from 8 to 10 at most times. It's for psychological disabled.
8 to 10?
Yes.
Okay. And describe the house. Give me the address.
It's San Bernardino, California, 92404.
Okay, Sarah, you look that up for me, please.
Sure.
And are you registered or licensed with the state?
With the city.
With the city of San Bernardino?
I'm a room and board.
I'll ask questions.
Okay.
You give me answers.
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
The answer is you're licensed by the city?
Correct.
As what?
As room for rent.
Just a room for rent?
That's the only qualification.
Just don't tell me what the only qualification is. You're licensed by the city to rent rooms in this house.
Correct.
Now, the plaintiff was referred to your boarding house, because it's not a facility, it's a boarding house, by the hospital. Do you know how the hospital got the name of your boarding house? Did you give it to the hospital?
The county collects a list of room and boards.
Of boarding houses?
Yes.
And how many rooms are you permitted to rent in your house?
5.
It's a 5-bed, 2-bath, 2,000 square feet. I have photos if you want to see. Do
you also live there, sir?
No.
Who else lives there?
It would be a house manager and residents.
A house manager.
Yes.
Is the manager also a tenant?
Yes. It's on-grounds manager 24 hours.
Okay, so you have somebody who's a resident who rents a room from you and who acts as the manager of the property.
Correct.
Okay. How much was the rent you were paying?
Well, it varied. It started out at like $750.
And your niece shared a room with someone?
Yes.
With the manager.
In the end.
Just a sec. Well, that's okay. She shared a room with somebody.
Correct.
Now, Ms. Lucerno, according to what I read, you tried to keep close tabs on your niece, and you went to pick her up